Welcome back to part 2 of Viewpoint. We're talking about the World Cup, a little preview, a little look ahead, and rating all the teams and all the groups and their chances of progressing into the next round and ultimately going on to win it. And we're joined by Stephen Gonzalez from the GFA, Paul Grant, our in-house sports commentator, Kenneth Askas, football agent, and Dennis Beso, GFA CEO. And we're moving on to Group F, arguably a relatively easy group for Argentina perhaps to get out of.
Don't discount Bosnia and Iran, but on paper, again, Argentina should win that hands down. I mean, I was watching a thing last night on a documentary on Argentinian football and how they rate and view Messi in the Argentina shirt. And it's quite interesting to see that he does not have the hero status that he has in a Barcelona shirt because they believe that he doesn't transform his performances from Barcelona onto the international stage. I think that's slightly changing in the last. Is that perhaps
because Messi has grown up in a particular mould, in a particular playing system, which is key to Barcelona's success, but that doesn't translate onto the.
It could be, without being too controversial. There's those who say that he hasn't got Xavi and Iniesta behind him in an Argentina shirt, an Argentina shirt as well. So it could be that. It could be that, and he hasn't won a World Cup practically on his own yet, like Maradona did. So, so maybe that's what the Argentinians think of him. But
still, I mean,
there's no doubt in the fact of his quality.
The help that Maradona used to have off the field, well, get him a stage further. So.
Then again, Maradona is practically revered as a god in the country, despite his
antiques off the field.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's interesting, the Argentinians. The quality of some of the players they've left behind is... Tevez has been left out. But Lavezzi, who plays for... I mean, they remind me sort of the riches Spain have as a keeper, they have up front. Because they've got Agüero, Higuaín, Messi, Lavezzi, they've left out...
Di Maria, they've got Di Maria as well.
Di Maria, I mean,
they've left out Carlos Tevez.
They are one of my tips to make it all the way through to the final. Easy group. Well, I don't think there's two easy teams there. Bosnia, the first World Cup. But again, they've got...
they're solid.
They're a very solid team. They're very physical. Iran, it's a new nation. I wouldn't count them out. They had a very successful Under-20 World Cup. Don't think they'll make it out of the group. But there won't be pushovers, and I don't think they'll be beaten 6 or 7-0 like...
they're Paul's pick on the GBC sweepstake.
What, Iran?
Yes.
Yeah. Ironically, my sweepstake choice and my actual choice were in the same group. I don't think Iran... I mean, they've got a decent coach in Queiroz, no? But apart from that, I don't see much going right for them. Argentina, I mean, just as Kenneth mentioned, sensational going forward. You know, you can say that defensively they're weak. I don't think they are, actually. I don't think. With the likes of Garay, who plays for Benfica,
Rojas,
you've got...
Rojas is a very, very good player.
Demichelis
started off awful at City, but then towards the end of the season was probably one of their better talisman, if you like, the way he started getting that City team going at the end of the season. So
Zabaleta at Man City as well. I think they're an aggressive back line, and then when push comes to shove, they're going to push or shove. They're
going to be even more aggressive.
Yeah, you got Mascherano in midfield, Gago in midfield, and again, if you score 2, we'll score 3. I think with that front line, I think between them, saw a figure where they've scored about 125 goals this campaign alone. The front 5. So.
It's just a question of whether these star players can gel together, isn't it?
Yeah. I think, to be perfectly honest, of all the groups, we've been through, 6 groups already? And I think, for me anyway, I see this as the clearest group and the easiest group for Argentina. I think they're quite capable of finishing up this group with an 100% record, 9 points. I see it as quite clear. But you're quite right. I think Argentina have the best of both worlds in the sense that they have that grit and determination that they've traditionally always had, but mixed up with that flair and that ability and that quality that they have, particularly going forward. And for me, I'd agree with Kenneth. I think, apart from Brazil aside, I think Argentina are another very good bet to make it all the way.
Another advantage the Argentinians have is the passion. I mean, Argentina and Brazil are... in Europe, you can probably compare that to an England-Germany. The passion that strikes them, the rivalry they have in between, so that will probably motivate them extra, give them that extra.
They are two countries, Brazil and Argentina, who build their national identity on
football. Yeah.
On football. And you don't really see that anywhere in Europe.
No, I agree, but the rivalry between these two could serve for the Argentinians as a motivator to go the extra mile.
What would it mean to Argentina to win the World Cup in Brazil?
Well, winning the World Cup in the backyard of your main rival. So,
which is Brazil's worst nightmare, probably.
Yeah,
because Brazil will still have
and it goes back to what I said before. If Messi orchestrated winning the World Cup for for Argentina in Brazil, maybe that would be the kickstart.
That will make him hero status.
For him to be on the same level in the Argentinians' views as Maradona.
The only thing that's missing, in my opinion, for Messi to be crowned at the same level as Maradona is for him to
win a World Cup.
As soon as he wins the World Cup, he will be up there with Maradona and probably surpass him because, I mean, for me, I've seen them both in action, and for me, Messi is better than Maradona, especially the way he conducts himself as an athlete. He doesn't need the use of any unhealthy products to improve his performance. And unfortunately, in the eyes of the Argentinians and the public, until he wins the World Cup, he will not be up there. But for me, he already is.
Okay, who will qualify with them from this group?
I think Bosnia are a very strong contender to maybe even surprise everyone and make a quarter-final. I think they could do a...
As much as that?
I would say so. I mean, looking at that group, I think they should get out. It depends on who they play in the next round, but... You know, you look at, they've got a decent goalkeeper in Asmir Begovic, who's had a good few campaigns now for Stoke and is on the radar of a number of bigger teams. Pjanic, who plays for Roma, and Edin Dzeko, who for me has been really the unsung hero of Man City's Premier League win this campaign. So, I don't know, I wouldn't discount Bosnia maybe making a quarter-final. And surprising people.
If Bosnia finish up as I expect, as runners-up within that group, then they would pair up against the winner of Group E, which could be Switzerland or France. Either of which are beatable in a one-game situation for Bosnia. So you may be right. We could be looking at a Bosnia or indeed a Switzerland in a World Cup quarter-final, which is interesting.
All right, Group G, the other group of death. That's Germany, Portugal, Ghana, and the US. Germany and Portugal, obviously.
Group of death on paper, to be honest.
On paper?
I mean,
well, yeah. Everything's on paper at the moment.
No, I know,
they haven't started playing yet.
there's some more because of history. I mean, I don't see it as a group of death because I think both Germany and Portugal are going to qualify with quite ease from that group. The US, even though it's a sport that's really picking up. The women, they have a great team. They normally finish in the top 4 in World Cups, but the men haven't been able to reciprocate the same form.
They've done stunningly well in the qualifiers.
No, absolutely, and they've done very well.
In fact, they have the best record of any team in the qualifiers.
I agree, but
they're beating Germany in a friendly game as well, so they do have credentials.
It's just a friendly, like the Germans say.
Well, you still have to go out.
No, I don't agree with that. I said it before. I think they will struggle against the sheer physical force of the Germans. They're going to hit them hard. The Portuguese, they've got a very skillful team. They've got youngsters coming through. They count on another of the world's best players in Ronaldo. Let's see if he's managed to shrug off his injury. I think even they will give a good account of themselves. They're very disciplined.
Yes.
I think they will give a good account of themselves, but I don't see them going further than the group stage.
Ghana did quite well at the last World Cup, didn't they?
They did, but
they were eliminated by
same
hand of God.
Same names 4 years down the line. One of their star strikers, Asamoah Gyan. Where has he been really for the last 4 years? So I think, and he was probably their star player in 2010. So I honestly cannot see Ghana or the US getting out of that group. I mean, Portugal's case, I think Portugal's problem is if Ronaldo has a bad game, no one else seems to do it for Portugal.
Where are their goals going to come from?
Where are they going?
Exactly. You're looking at
they're
the likes of Helder,
Postiga and Helder Postiga. Nani's been injured all season. Whether that will be good or bad for him because he may be fresh but he may lack match practice, who knows? And in terms of the Germans, I think...
The Germans, I mean, they've put together a remarkably good squad.
I mean, from an
array of star names.
From our personal point of view, and I'm sure Dennis will echo this, it would be great if we could walk out in Bremen with, and play the Germans as world champions. That would be brilliant for Gibraltar.
That would be interesting. But I mean, unlike, for example, Argentina, where you've got a host of star names, and there's always a question mark of whether they're going to gel together or not. With the Germans, there's no question. You know that they need to work efficiently as a team, as a unit.
The thing with Germany is that a player can drop out, so they've lost Marco Reus to injury, but someone else will come in, there'll be no problem, no issue there whatsoever. If there's no Reus, there's always a Götze. If there's not him, there's always a Schweinsteiger. You know, that you can just, the names just slip off the tongue. There's that many talented players, versatile players as well, players who can play in any number of positions across the midfield. For me, they are the top European side at the moment, even above Spain at this point in time, I would argue.
Yeah, I agree.
And they represent, in the same way as we argued earlier on that the Ivory Coast represented Africa's best candidate, I think Germany represents UEFA, Europe's best candidate in this tournament, and I think they'll go very far.
My only concern with Germany is that the system that they've played since 2010 has hinged very much on Schweinsteiger, on Khedira, and
they're all older.
Ozil, who are older.
Well, no, Ozil is still in his mid-20s.
Injury hit, and in Ozil's case, has had a pretty poor campaign for Arsenal. But then again, as Dennis has quite rightly said, you look at the likes of Götze, who can come in, Schürrle at Chelsea, Muller at Bayern Munich.
That's what I was going to say.
And a lot of these guys have got a winning
Kenneth
mentality.
has just hit the nail on the head, and I think he's quite stagnated at Bayern, is Toni Kroos, because that guy is if there ever was a German Paul Scholes, it's him. His 40-yard passing, his long-range shooting are out of this world, and I think he is going to be the one who Germany will...
And he's that elusive figure that in the modern game, the box-to-box midfielder that doesn't really exist anywhere, and this guy has come out of nowhere, and there he is. And everyone wants to sign his name.
And originally Bayern weren't playing him as much at the start of the season.
He doesn't really fit into
it took Thiago Alcantara to get injured for Guardiola to show faith in him, and he's been Bayern's best player easily in the second half of the season, and Jockey Love has showed a lot of faith in him, and quite rightly so, I think.
Yeah, Muller for me is a fantastic attacking midfielder who's capable of scoring goals from anywhere, and interesting to see. It will be interesting to see what Miroslav Klose does up front in chasing that World Cup
finals record. That is probably the one area of the German team that would, if you could question any part of the German team, it would be up front, because how old is Klose now?
36.
And he's there. Another one who has...
Even there, Stephen, I think there's a lot of... the German system almost mirrors the Spanish system in some ways, in that the Germans can get away without playing a recognised striker. Götze has filled in the main striker role on various occasions to fantastic effect.
They've got Draxler as well, who Arsenal is supposedly trying to chase and convert from a left winger into a centre forward. So
these are teams that, because of the nature of the players, the versatility of the players they have across midfield, they don't need an out-and-out recognised striker. They can just fit people in, as Fabregas did with Spain. Götze can do with the German system.
And they're very good at penalties.
I was just going to say...
the English are saying that they've been practising penalties. Really? You don't practice penalties a few months before the World Cup. It has to be built into your psyche, doesn't it? You have to be taking penalties all your life to be able to take them at that stage.
Fair enough. Some teams do it. Others it comes naturally, and like Paul said, the Germans, it's in their DNA.
Yeah. They learn to take them
for the Germans
when they come
lose
off
a penalty, it's easier to see a pig flying than a German national team losing, especially in a World Cup.
Or David Moyes winning a title. I was just going to say, I think we've all been agreeing far too much, so I'm going to throw a spanner in the works, and I'm going to predict that the USA are going to get out of their group.
Well, interestingly, we're talking about Germany and the system of the Germans and how efficient they are. Well, they've got a German coach.
Yeah, I mean...
Jürgen Klinsmann, a German legend, really.
They've had a great campaign. For me, the only difficult thing for them is that they played Germany in their final game, and it will come down to that match and how they fare. But I don't know. I just look at their team and I think they've got a few guys there who could do something. You know, Clint Dempsey is back in the MLS now, but he's an experienced campaigner. They've got two very good goalkeepers to choose from in Guzan and Howard. And
your Everton bias coming out there a bit.
Well, had to eventually. But I don't know. I just have a good feeling. And again, for Portugal, if anyone in this competition really is a one-man team at the moment, I think you'd look at Portugal. And if Ronaldo's not firing, then there's every reason to believe that, in my opinion, the USA can pull through.
Okay. Well, let's move on to the last group. Another relatively weak group when you compare it to some of the others, perhaps. That's a question, sorry.
Don't think Capello would agree with you, but and the Belgians are, well, everyone's been saying that they're the dark horse of the tournament. I don't think they're the dark horse. I think they're a very potent and relevant
everyone
threat.
says they're the dark horse, they're not the dark horse anymore.
I mean,
well,
there used to be a phrase, name me 5 famous Belgians. I think if we went through the team, we can name about 20.
Yeah, but did you reckon that perhaps they're setting themselves up for failure? Because everyone's backing.
There's always one team that everybody jumps on the bandwagon at the last minute, and then they gloriously fail, if you like. But the solidity of the Belgians, I mean, they've got centre halves coming out of their ears, really. Whether they play Vertonghen or Vermaelen on the left, and who plays beside Company. I mean, many teams in the world would love to have that problem. Their keeper, is he the best keeper in the world at the moment?
Yes.
It's
well, Mignolet, who's the Liverpool starting
and
keeper,
Mignolet
is
their reserve. So we said Spain had historically have a great keeper. Well, Belgium have them here and now as well, and for the next 10 years because they're both pretty young.
The main issue with Belgium, I think, is tournament experience and their lack of it. On paper, they have a terrific team. I mean, you just pointed it out, Stephen. They almost have 2 players for every key position. But do they have the tournament experience? Can they keep up a level of consistency throughout a month-long tournament? I have my doubts. I think they'll do well. They'll get through the group, without a doubt. But I can't see them making it all.
One thing that they may lack is the experience of Wilmots, of their coach or manager, and that ties in with what you said about tournament experience. I'm not sure how far.
How would they deal with the suspension
when the going gets tough for the Belgians?
That's the weakness of the Belgian team. Because throughout, up front, Lakago for me is going to be one of the stars of this World Cup. He's, the way he batters, he's like a young version of Drogba. The way, I saw him in action for Everton a few times this season, and the way at the age of 21 he puts a responsibility of the team and pushes everybody forward. At that age is unbelievable.
He's built like an ox as well.
I mean, I remember once at Villa Park, I was sitting behind with the home fans, behind the goal, and you could see him coming, and it's blood. I wouldn't like to be a central defender there.
You can practically visualize him running into the goal with 2 or 3 Koreans hanging off him.
They've got Witsel, Witsel, who's one of the best holding midfielders in Europe right now. Dembele from. I mean, I agree 100% with Dennis. The only thing that could let them down after getting through, because I backed them to get through, is the tournament experience. I mean, Belgium haven't done anything since what? Jan Sellemans in '82 World Cup. Apart from that,
they've got so much power. They can literally bully teams off the park. I mean, Dembele, Defoe, Lukaku, as Kenneth mentioned.
Has Benteke in the squad?
Benteke's out injured.
Broke his Achilles tendon, but they've got a young.
They're so powerful. They're so that they're going to really.
They've got Januzaj as well, who's had a great season.
Yeah, well, they've got that bit of guile as well. Eden Hazard, sensational season for Chelsea.
They just keep coming off.
Yeah, the only thing bringing Belgium down for me is the fact that they have Marouane Fellaini, and he's not going to win a trophy this season. So,
that's 2 now.
What about what about Russia?
Russia with Capello, you know what you're going to get. Dzagoyev is by far and away their standout player, as he was in the last Euros. But do they have the quality throughout the whole squad? I mean, they probably could get out of their group. You'd fancy them perhaps to get a result against Algeria and maybe Korea. But going forward, I don't see them going too far. Like I said, the solidity that Capello will bring,
where we can see.
I think it's going to go down to fitness levels there. I mean, the Koreans, as they proved in the last World Cup, they're very fit team. it's a close call. I reckon Belgium is going to win the group, and then it's something between the Koreans. Koreans have got
we're not seeing Algeria going anywhere.
No. I don't. No. I don't see. As I said initially, for me, Africa's best chance comes with the Ivory Coast. And in the other groups, they've got very tough opponents. They've got very creative and uncommon to the other African nations. The Algerians are quite strong at the back. You look at Nigeria, Cameroon. Their weaknesses are at the back, but the Algerian, it's probably more the Morocco. These countries tend to be stronger at the back. But from that group, I see the Koreans coming through with giving a run. It's a toss-up between Russia and Korea to go through with Belgium.
Be interesting to see how Capello
it
lines
goes back
up
to
the
what we've
Russian
just been
team.
saying about Belgium and tournament and winning mentality. Capello has that. If he can ingrain that into the Russians, that might be the deciding factor.
But at the same time, 4 years ago, he had England lined up like 11 men who were dying for a wee who couldn't get their fly open. You know, so ultimately, I don't know.
It depends on the material that you're working with.
Yeah, great club manager at international level. We'll have to see.
The players have to buy into his philosophy, don't they? And Capello's proved if the players buy into his philosophy, it works. If the players don't buy into his philosophy, like perhaps England did for 2 years, it could be a disaster waiting to happen.
Okay, we've got about 5 minutes or so left. Let's talk about the players that we think are going to light up this World Cup. I mean, two very obvious names spring to mind. Obviously, Messi and Ronaldo. Are they finally going to set up on the world stage, you think?
I think for me, Jonathan, this is a World Cup of two. There's two elements in this World Cup. The first is it's the World Cup for upcoming new talent. We've already mentioned during the course of the programme Ross Barkley with England. This could be his chance to shine. Adnan Januzaj with Belgium. It could be his chance to shine. And also Paul Pogba with France that Kenneth mentioned earlier. But it's also, I think, the tournament where star players and established players need to owe their national teams a performance at a major tournament. And I'm thinking about Wayne Rooney in England, who, apart from his performance in Portugal in 2004, since then has flattered to deceive and has disappointed for England in major international tournaments. This is probably his chance to show what he's made of. And I also think, perhaps more controversially, players like Messi and Ronaldo, who are undisputed stars with their clubs and put on performances week in, week out, but they still have to do it with their national teams in a major way at a World Cup. And this could well be the tournament where Messi comes into his own for Argentina, wins a World Cup for Argentina on his own, as Maradona did. Or it could be the tournament where Ronaldo shakes off any injury and does the same for Portugal. So this could be,
or it could be one where they both fail again.
Where they both fail again, and then questions. You know, the debate will be had again. When are they the mega stars? Are they Maradonas? Because they've done it with their clubs, but not with their
the exact
national teams.
opposite of that is a player like Neymar, who hasn't really had the best of seasons with Barca. Hasn't really lived up to the expectations, and yet, for his country, he really does do it.
I was going to mention that as soon as Dennis finished. I think this is going to be the year when Neymar finally arrives on the big stage. He's happy, he's with his family, he's with his teammates, he's in his home country, and I reckon he's going to be unstoppable.
He wears that Brazil shirt so proudly. At the final of the Confederations Cup, when they were singing the national anthem, he had tears running down his eyes because he was at home and playing at home.
I think this might well be. I agree a lot with what Dennis has said. There's some key players who flattered to deceive at the international level, but I think Neymar will be the main driving force for Brazil, and considering he's just 20, 21, it could be the real announcement, because as you rightly said, he's had a very poor season in Barcelona. You also have to give him the benefit of adapting to a new country, new language, new training methods, the weather, and this could really be his announcement on a big stage. Apart from that, obviously Luis Suarez is up there, not being a Liverpool biased supporter, but even Stevie Wonder can see that. It depends how he recovers from the injury. He's going to carry the weight, like Dennis said, of Uruguay. Obviously, he's got a point to prove the way he was singled out at the last World Cup for the handball that put Ghana out. I'm really looking forward to see Pogba. I saw him last year win the Under-20 World Cup in Turkey. He won it single-handedly. At Juventus, he's grown as their big player with Vidal from Chile. So looking forward to those two. There's a Korean player also out in Germany, Song, who I've seen a few times, but unfortunately he doesn't have
the infrastructure
in his team. But he's a player. He's also a good player to look out for.
Paul?
Yeah, I think looking at England, I think Ross Barkley, not purely because I'm an Everton fan, but there is talk of him completely unbiased, sensational player, and he could really be the big hope for England, not just in this tournament, but well into the future as well. I think he's a Gaza type player, but perhaps has got a bit more guidance than Gaza did back in the day. So all fingers are pointing towards him. And I agree with what Kenneth and Dennis have said about the attacking players who really have to make a name for themselves, and some who I'm sure will really kick on and steal the show, the likes of Neymar and Messi and players like that. But while I think it's going to be a very attacking World Cup, you never know. When it comes to the crunch, it could be a crucial defensive player who ultimately, in the ilk of Cannavaro in 2006. And I think if we're looking at Brazil, then I think Thiago Silva is going to be crucial to their victory. Not Phil Jagielka. No, I don't think England will win. And looking at Argentina, you know, it may well be, you know, we know what they do going forward. It's about what they can do at the back. So it may take the likes of a Garay or a Zabaleta to have a storming World Cup and emerge as really the difference between winning and losing. So while I think it's going to be a very attacking World Cup, I'd still look at the crucial defenders as the ones who can, you know, swing it either way.
From my point of view, there's two things. One, the host nation always does well in the World Cup, wherever it is. So and given the problems in Brazil that we can see all day on TV, I think it's probably some sort of poetic justice for FIFA if Brazil go far in the tournament. And I think, as Kenneth just said, with Neymar, it's probably his release playing for Brazil from Barcelona. He seems to be having the same sort of problems that Ibrahimovic did when he went to Barcelona. So maybe this will be his release and his chance to show the world that he really is worth all that money that Barcelona paid for him. The one thing I would say is that there's always one team that comes from nowhere and surprises everybody. So who that team will be this time, I don't know, but I think we should watch out for that.
If England get through, because England, at the end of the day, they're a big nation in terms of a name, but their record over the past, apart from when they won it, has been really disappointing. This really disappointing for the England fans. But I reckon if England can sneak through in the group, which I think they're going to struggle, it could be a surprise name that Stephen's saying to do well based on the crossovers they have.
Okay, well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for this very enjoyable, slightly more relaxed than normal viewpoints, but given the subject matter, I'm not surprised. Thanks for joining us, and very much enjoying the company and looking forward to a very exciting World Cup. See you all next week.